This is the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. Ever wish you could re-listen to your favorite interview or segment? Do you enjoy hearing older shows for the first time in years? Then the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less is just what you need. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for listening. I'm John Solberg, your host for the best moments of the BBQ Central Show in 10 minutes or less. I'm also very thankful to tell you that this episode is being brought to you by The Butcher Shop, purveyors of highly sought-after 100% Australian non-crossbred Wylarah 9 Plus briskets, and as always, they are hand-picked each and every time for you. The Butcher Shop has been retailing the finest meats for the past 15 years. Every week, they're shipping out competition-quality meats to many of the biggest teams in the competition scene across the nation. Simply put, teams who use The Butcher Shop win, and they win often. So you're not a competitor, but you still have an eye for the finer cuts. Great news. The Butcher Shop is shipping some of the finest prime, dry-aged Australian Wagyu and Japanese Wagyu steaks to people just like you and me who aspire to be the kings and queens of their cul-de-sac. The Butcher Shop always has Berkshire, Compart Duroc, Allegiance Duroc, and Prairie Fresh all-natural pork in stock. And again, it is handpicked for you each and every time. Now, you might be saying, John, all that sounds great, but I'd like to try something exotic. Well, rest easy knowing the Butcher Shop can get you your next elk steak or camel roast. They're going to ship it out promptly. Hey, when you give them a call, they've got some other exotic stuff too. Gotta like some exotic stuff. So let's review. The best competition briskets, check. The best pork selection, check. Giving you a better overall option to cook at home, check. Give the Butcher Shop a call today. 850-458-8782. That's 850-458-8782. Mention the BBQ Central Show for 10% off your entire order each and every time. You can also interact with them on their Facebook, facebook.com/The Butcher Shop. Don't forget, shop is spelled S-H-O-P-P-E. The Butcher Shop, home of the 100% Australian non-crossbred Wylarah 9 Plus briskets. And now let's take a journey back to October in 2017 and track down some pork belly, burnt end, controversial memories.
Last week, Dr. Barbecue weighed in on the social media phenomena that is known as pork belly burnt ends. And while I believe that he does think that they are delicious, he believes that the term burnt end should only be reserved for a dish that is produced from brisket, and that this pork belly burnt end is kind of a bastardization of the correct term. And a week or so ago, there was a little bit of a skirmish between Ray and my next guest, so wanted to grab the other side and see what he has to say about it. He is a first-timer to the show. He's incredibly popular on the social media and barbecue merch and product sales and cooking classes, kind of doing it all right now. So let's go ahead and race to the hotline and welcome the creator of Meat Church, based in Waxahachie, Texas. Matt Pittman joining me here on the show. Matt, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. I can't believe I got Waxahachie, Texas right out the first time. Pretty impressive for a guy up north, right? We were talking about social media a few minutes ago. A few weeks back, you and Dr. Barbecue had a little back and forth on this highly popular pork belly burnt ends subject. And, of course, Ray maintains the fact that perhaps while these are delicious, and I don't know if anybody would argue that, because they're not coming from a brisket, you can't use them in the term burnt ends because by the very definition, it's not a burnt end. One's pork, one's beef, and the real burnt ends come from beef. So give me your thought process on this. Does Ray have a valid point in any way? Is he way off base? Should there be some respect for barbecue definitions of the past? Should we be open to change? What's the Meat Church take?
So, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't think he's right and I'm wrong, or vice versa, and I'll get to that in a second. But let me say first off, I am a purist. I'm a historian guy. I'm a very when the way I teach barbecue, I tell people I'm wood, meat, fire. I'm old school, salt and pepper, Texas barbecue. So I'm the last guy that wants something crazy. In fact, when I was on Pitmasters, we were given a brisket flat, and I chose not to make burn ends because you can't make burn ends out of a flat, and the other two competitors made them. One did well, one got made fun of, frankly. Here's my issue. So first off, Ray is a little controversial and can be known to be a bit of a jerk at times, and that's fine. He's earned his right to do that. Well, let's back up. So 2 weeks ago, I did pork belly burn-ins on local news channel. Someone posted the video. Someone tagged Ray and said, hey, he wouldn't agree these are pork belly burn-ins. And Ray chimed in and, gave his piece. And I said, well, hey, I feel like the Meat Church congregation's a big group. I've got a voice, and I think it's finally time to kind of step up against him and say, Ray doesn't get to make the rules. And what I mean by that is he doesn't get to decide what things are called going forward. I'm not calling it a burn-in. I said there I can see it both ways. In fact, that weekend I made a dish called pork belly with jalapeno relish. I didn't call it a burn-in, but I explained to him, and he's yet to address this. I can see how you take a big piece of meat, you cook it, you cube it, season it, sauce it, put it back on the pit in the method of a burn-in, kind of like a chicken fried steak, and you use chicken fried breading on something else like chicken fried bacon. I'm referring to it as a method. So I can understand why people would want to call it a pork belly burn-in, and I have no issue with it. I personally have called it both. I've been cooking pork belly for years. My buddy Travis Heim here in Fort Worth makes a pork belly burn-in that's extremely popular, probably landed him on the Texas Monthly Top 50 this year. I don't know his method and how he does it, but if you follow this method, I see nothing wrong with it. And in my issue with Ray on Twitter that day, he won't address it. He would retweet my tweets, and he would tweet out things like, or he would send pictures of coffee cups and say coffee burn-ins or tofu burn-ins. That's ridiculous. That's not what I'm talking about. Take the meat, follow the process, and I don't care if you call it that or not. But at the end of the day, the country's spoken. I think it's pretty obvious what they're called at this point. Just go to Google and type it in.
Is there a traceable history that you know of when pork belly burnt ends were introduced? Has someone been given or taken credit for the item?
Well, I'll tell you what I know. So Travis Heim and I, we used to have lunch and talk pork belly all the time. We both cooked it a lot. He opened a trailer and started selling bacon burn-ins, and I'd never heard of it. I've since saw that someone might have been cooking it previous, but he's the first one I knew that was doing it around here, and it is extremely popular in Texas, particularly in Fort Worth. I mean, he is very, very, very well known for it. They're iconic, frankly, at this point. I don't know his method. I know my method and why I'm okay calling it a pork belly burn-in because of how I'm doing it.
So, Justin, just to recap very quickly, it's more of a method versus anything else in your estimation.
Yeah, I mean, when you're cooking brisket burn-ins, they come off the point, the fatty part, right? So the idea is you cook this brisket till it's done, then you take the fattest part, you cube it, you season it, sauce it, put it back in the pit to continue to render that fat out. Well, pork belly is even fattier than the point on a brisket, right? It's like the fattiest meat you could ever eat in your life. So when I heard the term, I thought it kind of works and went with it. But now, like I said, you look on social media now and it's all over. So 2 weeks ago, I was on record saying, I don't care what you call it. I don't care if you go one way or the other. And then, now I think I'm going to stake my claim and say we're going with it.
So here's my opinion. You're a very creative guy. You have a lot of great ideas. You've proven out success in business here. Isn't there something cooler that we could call these things other than pork belly burn ends? For instance, swine cubes. What about swine cubes? Doesn't it have a good ring to it?
You want to find out what Matt had to say about swine cubes and other things? Head on over to the BBQCentralShow.com. Link in today's show notes will take you to the complete episode. There's a lot on the front of this segment and the back of this segment, all Matt Pittman. Get to know Matt on the front end of this before we get into this segment. Pork belly burn ends weren't around before 2017. They're not really that. It's a new phenomenon. But anyway, back in the day, those phenomenon things, they took some skill. Kind of not like today. That's a whole nother story. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the best moments of the Barbecue Central show in 10 minutes or less. Until next time, I'm your host, John Solberg. I look forward to talking to you again soon.